My husband was assigned to a remote drilling project in the harsh wilderness of Alaska for 6 years. I was left alone to take care of our home in New York City. One night, after working late, I accidentally ran into his former coworker. The man looked shocked and said, "Wait, Chloe, didn't Ben move back to New York 5 years ago?" I firmly did one thing. That night, the image of the husband who supposedly reappeared after 5 years shattered into a million pieces. At 2 a.m., I finally shut down my computer. My head felt like it was going to split open after working overtime for 3 consecutive days. This was the 6th year since Benjamin Wright had left, and I had grown completely accustomed to this rhythm of life. Filling all my time with work made me think about him less. Tonight, there was an issue with a project launch, so I had to stay for emergency repairs until this ungodly hour. The office was empty except for me and a few guys from the tech team. I dragged my exhausted body into the elevator and pressed the lobby button. Suddenly, I remembered that today was our wedding anniversary. 7 years, I murmured softly to myself. Unconsciously, my fingers played with the ring on my left hand. The elevator doors opened on the 12th floor, and a man in a gray suit stepped in. I shifted to the side without looking up. "Chloe? Chloe Davis, right?" I startled and lifted my face under the bright fluorescent lights of the elevator. I recognized the face immediately. It was Greg Peterson, Ben's coworker, who had also been stationed in Alaska. I had met him once, 3 years ago, when he flew back briefly for a project report meeting, and I attended a company dinner as Ben's wife. "Greg? What are you still doing at the office this late?" I tried to muster a smile. Just finished a virtual meeting with the European team. The time difference is brutal," Greg said with a sigh. "You're working late too, huh? Ben would be heartbroken if he knew you were working this hard." My heart pounded at the sound of Ben's name. "How is he doing up there, Greg?" "I haven't been able to video call him in over 2 months. He said the project is at a critical stage and the satellite signal is terrible right now." Greg's expression suddenly became strange and stiff. The elevator stopped at the ground floor. The doors opened, but he didn't seem to have any intention of stepping out. "What is it, Greg?" I asked. "Chloe." Greg hesitated, avoiding my eyes. "Do you really not know?" "Know what?" Greg took a deep breath, stepped closer, and lowered his voice. "Ben. He moved back to New York 5 years ago." Time seemed to stop. Reflexively, I held the closing elevator doors open with my hand. "What do you mean? 5 years ago? Is the infrastructure project in Alaska already finished?" "Chloe." Greg's voice sounded urgent. "I remember it perfectly because we flew back together. He told me he was coming home early to surprise you." I leaned against the cold wall of the elevator. My legs went weak. "That's impossible. He video calls me every week. He sends me his location. Things like that can be easily manipulated, Chloe." Greg's voice grew softer. "I probably shouldn't be interfering, but for years, it's felt so wrong to me that you still thought Ben was freezing in Alaska. Last year, I saw him down in Tribeca. He was with a woman. I called out his name, but he pretended not to see me and walked away fast." My face turned deadly pale. The elevator started moving down to the underground parking garage. "Are you sure you didn't mistake him for someone else?" "We worked side by side in the field for 3 years, Chloe. How could I mistake him?" Greg pulled out his phone. I even managed to snap a picture. I thought about sending it to you then, but it felt like I was overstepping. On the phone screen was a side profile I knew intimately. His arm wrapped around the shoulders of a young woman as they walked into a high-end restaurant. The jacket he was wearing was the birthday gift I had shipped to Alaska last year. In that exact moment, my entire world collapsed. "Thank you for telling me." My voice sounded impossibly calm, as if I were discussing a stranger. "Chloe, are you okay?" "I'm fine." I shook my head and pulled out my own phone. "Could you text me that photo?" Of course, the photo came through. I zoomed in. There was no mistaking it. It was him. What broke me even further was the timestamp on the photo. 6 months ago. 6 months ago, Ben told me he was on a surveying trip deep into the Alaskan tundra, where there was zero signal, completely unreachable for 2 weeks. The elevator reached the garage and the doors opened. "I'll go ahead, Greg. Thank you so much for tonight. Are you sure you're okay? Do you want me to drive you home?" "No need." I turned and walked to my car. My footsteps felt so steady that I surprised myself. It was only after I sat in the driver's seat and locked the doors that my body began to shake violently. 6 years. Exactly 6 years. I had been alone in this city, taking care of our apartment, holding on to a promise that never even existed. I opened our chat history on my phone. Just last week, he had sent me a picture of an Alaskan sunset with the caption, "When I get home, I promise I'll take you here, so you can see a real sunset." Liar. Tears of pure rage exploded, not from sadness. I wiped my tears violently and started the engine. I didn't drive back to our apartment. Instead, I drove to a small studio apartment in Jersey City that we had bought before we got married. Initially, it was meant to be rented out. But we eventually left it empty, and I only came by occasionally to clean it. On the drive, I made 3 phone calls. First, to Richard Vance, a private investigator. I forwarded him the photo and demanded all information on the woman and Ben as quickly as possible. Second, to my best friend Mia. "Mia, I need to crash at your Jersey City place for a few days, and I think I need a legal consultation." Third, to the head of my tech team, Mark. "I'm so sorry, but I have a sudden family emergency. I need to take a week off. I've already handed over all the launch protocols." Once everything was settled, I took a deep breath. Why did Ben do this? For 5 years. Where has he been living? And where is he getting his money? There hadn't been any large withdrawals from our joint bank account. Suddenly, I remembered something from 3 years ago. Ben said he got a massive bonus from the Alaskan project and asked me to open an additional credit card under my name so he could use it more easily up there. Every month, I received the statements, but they only showed small, everyday purchases. Groceries, coffee. I never suspected a thing. Now I realized it was just one of his tools to pretend he was still stationed in the wilderness. Arriving at the Jersey City apartment, I turned on the laptop and logged into our online banking. That secondary credit card had no transaction history for the past 3 months. Strange, especially since just last week, he claimed he bought me a handmade native Alaskan ulu knife as a souvenir. I searched for the tracking number he gave me and pulled it up. The sender's address wasn't in Alaska. It was a logistics fulfillment center in Queens, New York. More and more puzzle pieces were snapping together, pointing to one cold, hard truth. My husband, the man I had loved for 10 years, had been conning me for 5 solid years. By 4 a.m., I had organized my thoughts and made a checklist, gather all evidence bank statements, fake shipping receipts, etc. Find Ben's actual home address and track his life over the past 5 years. Check the status of our joint assets. Execute the plan. Just before dawn, the initial report from Rick the PI arrived. The woman in the photo, Clara Anderson, 27 years old, an interior designer. She lived with Benjamin Wright at a luxury condo in Tribeca, listed under joint ownership. Further details would be sent by noon. A luxury condo in Tribeca? That cost millions of dollars. I let out a cynical laugh. Ben, you're living quite the high life. At 8 a.m., I did my makeup, put on my sharpest business suit, and drove my BMW to the Tribeca building. The doorman stopped me. "I'm here for Unit 1802. I'm looking for Ben Wright. I'm his older sister." I smiled, handing the doorman a box of expensive artisanal chocolates I had just bought. Wanted to surprise my little brother. The doorman looked at the chocolates, then at my BMW parked outside. The car was in my name, bought right before Ben left. "Just a moment, ma'am. Let me call up to confirm." My heart hammered against my ribs. If Ben picked up, everything would be ruined. However, the doorman put the phone down. "No answer, ma'am. Probably still asleep. Would you like to go up and wait?" Oh, no need. I'll just leave the gift here. I maintained my perfect smile. Please let him know when he gets back. Could I get a guest access card? I might swing by later. After securing the guest card, I left the lobby but didn't go far. I parked across the street next to a coffee shop and waited in silence. At 10:47 a.m., a familiar figure emerged from the lobby. Ben. He was holding the hand of a young woman. Both were laughing, and the woman was carrying a reusable grocery bag from Whole Foods. They looked like any normal couple returning from a morning errand. My nails dug so deeply into my palms they almost drew blood. After 5 years, he actually looked younger. He was wearing casual, designer clothes I had never seen before, his hair perfectly styled. Meanwhile, from years of loneliness and brutal corporate overtime, fine lines had started to form at the corners of my eyes. They disappeared into the building. I started the engine. There were no tears, no screaming. There was only a cold, burning resolve settling deep in my chest. Ben, did you think I would cry and beg like some discarded, pathetic woman? No, you are so wrong. I will make you pay the price for these 5 years of lies in ways you could never imagine. And step 1 is destroying your peace of mind tonight. I checked my phone. The full report from Rick had arrived. Ben and Clara had been together for 4 years and bought the Tribeca condo 2 years ago. The down payment was $500,000, and the remaining $1.5 million was a bank mortgage. Ben currently worked as a senior project manager at Miller Construction Group, making around $250,000 a year. Interestingly, under his marital status at work, he was listed as divorced. And ironically, the CEO of that construction company was the father of a guy I went to NYU with. I dialed a number I hadn't called in 9 years. Mr. Miller? It's Chloe. Chloe Davis. Yes, sir. I have a huge favor to ask. After leaving Tribeca, I drove straight to a law firm in Midtown. My best friend Mia was already waiting in the lobby, looking sharp in her attorney attire. She rushed over the second I stepped out of the car. Chloe, are you seriously going straight to the nuclear option? You don't want to give him a chance to explain? Mia held my hands, her eyes full of worry. 5 years, Mia. He scammed me for 5 years. My voice was eerily calm. During those 5 years, I consistently transferred money into our joint account because he said the conditions in Alaska were brutal and he needed emergency funds. When my parents were in the hospital upstate, he told me he couldn't fly back because the project was at a critical phase. Now I know. It wasn't that he couldn't, it's that he didn't want to. Mia sighed and wrapped an arm around my shoulder. Let's go in. Bob is waiting. Robert Sterling was a highly recommended divorce and asset dispute attorney. In his office, he meticulously examined the data I provided. His brow furrowed. Mrs. Wright. Or Chloe. Based on the information you've provided, your husband's actions constitute severe marital fraud, Bob said, adjusting his glasses. However, legally, it might be slightly difficult to prove that he intentionally vanished for 5 years because you two maintained continuous communication. But all that communication was fabricated, Bob. I slid my phone across the desk. The GPS pins he sent were spoofed. The photos were ripped from the internet. Even his video call backgrounds were fake. Last night, I dug into it. He's been using professional green screen software. Bob nodded slowly. That is a critical point. We'll need a forensic tech expert to verify that. Regarding the assets, the joint account exists, but the vast majority of the funds are in your name. Before he left, he transferred most of his assets to you, claiming it would be easier for you to manage. I smiled bitterly. Thinking about it now, it's incredibly ironic. Because of that, my position is actually much stronger. What about that Tribeca condo? It's under joint ownership with the other woman. I pointed to the PI report, a $500,000 down payment. There were no withdrawals of that size from our accounts. That means he got that money from another source over the years, or maybe from your in-laws. Ben's family is quite wealthy. 3 years ago, They moved to London, and we've barely had contact since. I rubbed my temples. During these 5 years, he always forbade me from visiting his parents during the holidays. He always had an excuse. Bob took notes. We need to trace the origin of that money. If it was acquired during your marriage, even if your name isn't on the deed, you are entitled to demand a division of that asset. I don't want his money, I said coldly. I want him to pay for what he did. Chloe, I completely understand your feelings, but the law is rational, Bob said gently. Your greatest advantage right now is that Benjamin doesn't know you've uncovered his lies. You have ample time to gather evidence and build a strategy. My strategy is already built. I sat up straight. Tonight, I'm going to make him expose himself. Mia and Bob stared at me. Today is our 7th wedding anniversary. Usually, he sends a message or does a quick video call. Every year, he says, "Sorry I can't be there to celebrate with you this year." Tonight, I'm breaking that tradition. I'm going to give him the impression that I'm starting to get suspicious. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to make him so paranoid that he walks right into his own trap. I looked at Bob. From a legal standpoint, if he confesses or makes a move to hide things himself, how does that help? It would be incredibly advantageous in the lawsuit, especially for claiming emotional damages and proving deceit. Bob's eyes gleamed. Do you have a specific plan in mind? I nodded and pulled out the printed sheets I had drafted from my bag. Half an hour later, I walked out of the law firm with a stack of additional documents in my hands, the initial drafts Bob had prepared. Mia walked me to the parking garage. Chloe, are you sure you can handle this alone? Let me stay with you tonight. No, I need to be alone. I squeezed her hand. Thank you, Mia. When this is all over, I'm buying you the most expensive bottle of wine in the city. I'm holding you to that, Mia said, trying to sound cheerful. On the drive back to the Jersey City apartment, my phone rang. It was Mr. Miller. Chloe. I looked into it. It's true. Ben has been working at my firm for 3 years. His performance is stellar. Last year, he was promoted to senior project manager. Mr. Miller sounded awkward, but on his HR paperwork, his marital status is listed as divorced. And in his background bio, there's absolutely no mention of you. Understood, Mr. Miller. Thank you so much for the information. I remained composed. I have one more request, sir. Please do not let him know I'm looking into him. Of course, Chloe. If you need anything else, just say the word. I never expected this from Ben. After hanging up, I pulled the car over to the side of the road. Finally, the tears broke through. Not for him, but for my lost youth. For the decade I spent believing that love was everything. I wiped my face, fixed my makeup in the rearview mirror, and kept driving. Arriving at the apartment, I spent an hour organizing all the evidence. Chat logs, fake location screenshots, bogus shipping receipts, bank statements I sorted, scanned, and backed everything up to a secure cloud drive. At 4:30 p.m., I opened my laptop and logged into an old email account I rarely used anymore. It was the account we used back when we first started dating at NYU, filled with our early love letters and photos. I selected a few of the most symbolic pictures. A selfie at Washington Square Park. Our first weekend trip to the Hamptons. Our smiling faces on our wedding day. Then, I began to write. Today is our wedding anniversary. 7 years. When we got married, you said for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, you would always be by my side. I cried so hard that day, feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. For these past 6 years, I've lived alone, working, managing our entire life by myself. My friends tell me I'm strong, but only I know how empty my heart feels when I wake up in the middle of the night and touch the cold pillow next to me. Last week, looking through our old photos, I suddenly realized something terrifying. I don't really remember your face anymore. Not your physical features, but the way your expressions change when you speak. The crinkles by your eyes when you laugh. The way you tap the table when you're thinking. How long has it been since we truly talked? Every time we video call, you always rush to hang up, blaming the bad satellite connection. The gifts you send are always through a courier, never with a handwritten note. Ben, lately I've been having strange dreams. I dream that you actually came back a long time ago, but you're hiding because you don't want to see me. When I wake up, it feels ridiculous. How could you ever do that to me? But today, while working a graveyard shift at the office, I ran into Greg Peterson. He said some strange things that made my heart race. When I showed him your photo, he said you looked a bit different from the Ben he remembers. Of course you look different. 6 years have passed. People change. Can I ask for one promise? Next time we video call, could you show me the room you're staying in? The area around your camp? I want to be more involved in your life. Even if it's just through a screen, from your wife, who will always love you. Chloe, I read it over 3 times. The tone was perfect, full of longing, a hint of anxiety, suspicious but lacking hard proof, just enough to make him sweat, but not enough to trigger an extreme reaction. I hit send. Now, the waiting game began. I calculated the time difference. If Ben were truly in Alaska, it would be around 1 p.m. there. He usually checked his emails during his lunch break. I shut the laptop and forced myself to rest. Tonight was going to be a long night. At 8 p.m., my phone rang. Ben. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello? Ben? Chloe. I just read your email. His voice sounded tense. The background was dead quiet. Why the sudden nostalgic letter? What exactly did Greg say to you? Nothing much. Just catching up. I purposely made my voice sound exhausted. Maybe because I've been working so hard lately, my mind is wandering to weird places. Was work busy today? Yeah. Pretty busy. Lots of project issues. He paused. Chloe, don't overthink things, okay? I'm fine up here. Just incredibly swamped. Once this phase is over, I promise I'll take PTO and fly home. Okay, I replied softly. Ben, can we video call for a bit? Silence on the other end. It's kinda tough right now. I'm outside. Signal is garbage. Outside? Isn't it freezing dark in Alaska right now? But it sounds so quiet where you are. Ah. I stepped inside a supply shed, talking with some guys. His voice was noticeably jittery. Chloe, what's going on with you? Did you hear some weird rumor? A rumor? I shot back. What kind of rumor? Dead silence again. It's nothing. I'm just worried about you. You don't sound right. Ben tried to deflect. You're working too hard. Take care of yourself, okay? I will. I stared at the darkness outside my window. Ben, if you're hiding something from me, tell me now. I can forgive you. What are you talking about? Of course I'm not hiding anything, he answered. Far too quickly. Far too firmly. My heart dropped. Even at this stage, he chose the lie. All right then, I said quietly. I'm tired. I'm going to bed early. Happy anniversary. Wait, Chloe. I hung up. A few minutes later, an iMessage popped up. I'm so sorry we can't celebrate together again. When I get back, I promise I'll make it up to you. I love you. I stared at the text. I suddenly felt nauseous. Over the past 6 years, how many times had he typed those exact words? And every single time, I had foolishly believed him and waited. At 9 p.m., I changed into all black and grabbed a small backpack. Inside was a power bank, a mini digital camera, a digital voice recorder, and some legal documents Bob had drafted. I drove back to Manhattan, straight to the Tribeca building. I sat in a dark corner of a Starbucks across the street. At 10:15 p.m., I saw Ben burst out of the luxury condo lobby, looking frantic. He glanced around nervously before hailing a yellow cab. I sprinted to my car and tailed the taxi. It looped around downtown before pulling up in front of a quiet, upscale diner in the West Village. Ben hopped out, checked his surroundings again, and rushed inside. I parked down the block and pulled out the mini camera. Through the diner's large glass window, I saw Ben sitting across from an older man, talking with intense, animated gestures. The man looked familiar. After a moment, it clicked. It was Brad, Ben's cousin who worked in corporate banking. I adjusted the focus and zoomed in. On the table between them was a stack of documents that looked suspiciously like property deeds and insurance policies. I recorded everything. My heart was racing. What was Ben trying to do by meeting his banker cousin this late at night? Bringing property and insurance documents. Their conversation lasted about 30 minutes. When they parted, Brad patted Ben on the shoulder with a heavy, grim expression. Ben sat alone in the booth for a long time, burying his face in his hands. I waited patiently. Finally, he stood up, paid, and left. But he didn't head back to Tribeca. Instead, he walked toward a different neighborhood. I tailed him carefully, keeping my distance. 15 minutes later, he walked up to an older pre-war apartment building in Greenwich Village. I knew this place. It was where his parents used to live before they moved to London. They apparently hadn't sold it yet. Ben stood on the sidewalk for a long time, staring up at one of the dark windows. Then, he lit a cigarette. It was the first time I ever knew him to smoke. After finishing it, he pulled out his phone. He seemed hesitant to make a call. Finally, he dialed. Almost simultaneously, my phone rang. The name Ben illuminated my screen. I didn't answer immediately. I let it ring 7 times before pressing accept. I purposely made my voice sound groggy. Hello? Ben? Why are you calling this late? Chloe. Were you asleep? His voice sounded incredibly raspy. Just about to. What's wrong? Nothing. Just missed your voice. He paused. Chloe, if I ever did something terrible to you, do you think you could forgive me? Here it comes, I thought. He was testing the waters. Depends on what you did, I said softly. What did you do, Ben? A heavy sigh echoed through the speaker. Nothing. Just overthinking things. I know I've neglected you for years. He dodged the question. Oh, right. Didn't you say you wanted to upgrade your car? I have some savings. Want me to wire it to you? No need. My car is fine, I answered calmly. Keep the money. Things are tough in Alaska. Buy yourself something warm. Better food, Chloe. He suddenly choked up. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Sorry for what? For everything. For not being there with you. For letting you shoulder everything alone. His voice grew fainter. Sometimes I think, maybe you'd be happier if you had married someone else. Don't say that. I gripped my phone tight. I've never regretted choosing you. Those words used to be pure truth. Now, they felt like a jagged, agonizing irony. You are such a good person, Chloe. Too good, he sobbed. Go to sleep. I still have some paperwork to finish. Okay. Don't work too late. After hanging up, I watched Ben collapse onto the curb. His shoulders shook as he wept into his hands. For a fleeting second, my heart almost softened, but then I remembered the thousands of nights I spent crying myself to sleep alone over the last 5 years. And my heart turned back to stone. Ben cried for about 5 minutes. Then he stood up, wiped his face, smoothed out his designer jacket, and slipped his mask back on, as if nothing had happened. He hailed another cab, this time heading to Tribeca. I didn't follow him anymore. The intel I gathered tonight was more than enough. By the time I got back to Jersey City, it was 2 a.m. I organized all the new data, backing it up to the cloud and a physical external hard drive. Then, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and booked a one-way ticket to Hawaii for tomorrow afternoon. Next, I emailed Mark at the office, extending my emergency leave to 2 weeks. Finally, I sent an iMessage to Ben. Hey, I have an unexpected emergency business trip to Hawaii tomorrow for about a week. Reception might be spotty where the conference is, so don't worry if you can't reach me. Take care of yourself. After sending it, I powered down my phone, popped out the SIM card, and swapped in a prepaid burner SIM I had bought earlier. Once everything was done, I stood by the window, looking out at the glittering NYC skyline. This city, which used to hold all our dreams of the future, now felt like a monument to betrayal. But that was fine. The game was just beginning. At 7 a.m., I woke up right on time. My internal clock, forged from 5 years of living like a single woman, was precise. I opened the blinds, the morning sun blinding me. My flight was at 3 p.m., plenty of time to prepare to vanish. My old phone remained dead on the nightstand. I booted up the burner phone and texted Mia. Going off the grid for a week. Old number is dead. This is my new one. Keep it a secret. Almost instantly, a reply came. Got it. Rick sent a new update. Emailed it to your secure Proton account. Be careful. I opened my laptop and logged in. Rick's report was thorough. Target: Benjamin Wright. 5. Year activity log. Career: hired by Miller Construction Group 3 months after returning to NY. Started as junior engineer. Promoted to senior PM in year 3. Salary progression: $100K is greater than $150K is greater than $250K plus project bonuses. Real estate: Tribeca condo bought 2 years ago. Total $2M. $500K down. $1 5M mortgage. Down payment sourced from $250K. Ben's personal savings bonuses. Salary: $250K. Wired from Charles Anderson, Clara's father. Retired architect, Clara Anderson. 27. Interior designer. Meets Ben 4 years ago on a job site. Cohabitating for 3 years. Introduced to friends, family as husband and wife. Clara's social media is full of romantic photos captioned "My husband." Family. Ben's parents moved to London 3 years ago. Minimal contact. Ben wires them $1,000 monthly. Anomalies. Bought a massive life insurance policy 1 year ago. Beneficiary: Clara Anderson. Bought an $80K Range Rover under Clara's name. Joint assets. Joint account with Chloe Davis only shows minor daily expenses for 5 years. The bulk of Chloe's deposits remain untouched. I stared at the screen, digesting it all. Clara's dad paid half the down payment. What did this mean? Did Clara's family know Ben was married? If they knew, they were accomplices. If they didn't, Clara was a victim too. But regardless, the fact that Ben was a traitor remained unchanged. I scrolled down to the attached photos. Ben and Clara at Whole Foods, dining at a Michelin star restaurant, walking hand in hand in Central Park. Every picture was a stab to the eyes, but I forced myself to look at every single one. At the final photo, I froze. Clara's stomach was visibly rounded. Ben's hand rested gently on it. They were looking at each other, glowing with happiness. Pregnant. I slammed the laptop shut. I paced over to the window, breathing heavily. For 6 years, I had desperately wanted a child. But Ben always said, "Let's wait until I'm back from Alaska. It's too hard for you to do it alone." How monstrous that excuse sounded now. My burner phone buzzed. A PDF scan from Bob Sterling. He had drafted the official divorce petition based on my evidence. A message accompanied it. Chloe, the evidence is overwhelming. Ben's actions constitute severe at-fault grounds, putting you in an incredibly strong position for asset division. However, I advise attempting divorce mediation before officially filing. It saves time and emotional energy. The choice is yours. I replied, "Understood, Bob, but I have a few things to do first. Please proceed with caution. Don't make any moves that tip our hand yet." "Will do. Stay safe." I put down the phone and packed. I didn't need much. Some clothes, crucial legal documents, my laptop, and a sealed Ziploc bag. Inside the bag was our marriage certificate, old photos, and the letter he wrote me the day he left for Alaska. Chloe, wait for me for 6 years. When I get back, we will never be apart again. I took the letter out, read it one last time, and then, slowly and meticulously, tore it into tiny confetti and dropped it into the trash can. At 9 a.m., I went to the bank. Our joint account had about $300,000 in it. Most of it was the money I had painstakingly saved over 6 years. I had scheduled a large cash withdrawal. I took out $50,000 in cash and transferred the remaining $250,000 into my private account. The teller was a friendly older woman. Wow, big withdrawal today. Renovating the house? I smiled. Been married a long time. Time for a complete change of scenery. Oh, how exciting. Your husband must be thrilled. Let's hope so. I smiled, though my heart was ice cold. From the bank, I went to Bob's office to sign the final retainers and officially grant him power of attorney. If you can't reach me for a week, file the petition exactly as planned. Where are you going? Are you sure you're safe? Don't worry, Bob. I just need time and space to think. I didn't disclose my destination. At 12 p.m., I returned to the Jersey City apartment. From my burner phone, I sent a scheduled SMS to Ben's number. Mr. Benjamin Wright. I am Robert Sterling, legal counsel for Mrs. Chloe Davis. Mrs. Davis is currently unavailable due to an urgent personal matter and has granted me full power of attorney to handle her affairs. Mrs. Davis wishes to discuss the terms of your divorce. Please contact my office within 3 days. If we do not hear from you by this deadline, we will initiate formal legal proceedings. Robert Sterling, Esquire. Once I confirmed the text was scheduled to send later, I popped the burner SIM out and snapped it in half. At 2 p.m., I arrived at JFK Airport, dragging my suitcase. Before boarding, I called Mia from an airport payphone. Mia, I'm boarding. I'm off the grid until next week. Chloe, are you sure you're okay doing this alone? Going so far away? I need to completely detach from this environment so I can think clearly about my next moves. I stared at the tarmac. I can handle this. Okay. But text me once a day using our secret code so I know you're alive. NYU Dorm 307. Got it. Love you. Mia. Love you too. Be safe. Hanging up the payphone, I severed my last tie to the past. The boarding announcement echoed. I dragged my bag to the gate without looking back. As the plane took off, I watched the sprawling concrete of New York shrink below me. I tried to close my eyes and sleep, but my mind was racing. If he came back 5 years ago, why did he lie? Just because he fell for someone else? Or was there another reason? That late-night meeting with his cousin Brad, the property and insurance documents gnawed at my intuition. A terrible sense of dread crept into my chest. Excuse me, ma'am. Drink? The flight attendant's voice broke my trance. Just water, please. Thank you. Holding the plastic cup, a question haunted me. What would Ben's reaction be when he received the lawyer's text? Panic? Rage? Relief? Maybe all three. But regardless, I only gave him 3 days. 3 days. And the legal war would officially begin. The plane broke through the clouds, the sun blindingly bright. I pulled down the window shade and opened a book. I tried to calm my mind, but the letters just danced on the page. Excuse me, honey. The older woman sitting next to me said softly. You look terribly pale. Only then did I realize my hands were violently shaking. Oh, I'm just a bit cold. I'm fine. Here, take this. She pulled a soft cashmere shawl from her carry-on. Wrap up. I couldn't. Thank you. Nonsense. We're all in this together up here. She smiled warmly. I'm going to visit my daughter in Honolulu. Are you on vacation? Yes, ma'am. Needing some fresh air. Hawaii is perfect for that. Whenever you look at the ocean, your heart just settles. She patted my hand. Whatever the problem is, once you see the water, It'll all be okay. I nodded, returning a grateful smile. The kindness of strangers sometimes felt warmer than the comfort of people you knew. After a long flight, we landed at Kahului Airport in Maui. The humid, tropical air hit me instantly, a stark contrast to the chilly New York autumn. I took off my jacket and breathed in the salty air. As planned, I hadn't booked a luxury resort. I chose a quiet, secluded guest house on the North Shore, away from the tourist traps. The owner was a warm, robust Hawaiian woman named Auntie Leilani. When I told her I came alone to find some peace, she gave me the best room overlooking the lush valley. Listen, sweetheart, if your heart is heavy, just look at the valley. Let the green absorb it, Auntie Leilani said, handing me a brass key. Dinner's in the main kitchen tonight. Come down whenever you're hungry. The room was pristine. Through the large glass windows, the emerald slopes rolled toward the sea. I unpacked, walked out to the lanai, and turned on my new burner phone. One message from Mia. Arrived, I replied. Safe. 307. Then, I did the most relaxing thing I'd done in 3 days. I put on my swimsuit and dove into the guesthouse pool. The water was cool, embracing my tired body. I swam to the deep end, floated on my back, and stared up at the Hawaiian sky. Suddenly, everything felt insignificant. Ben's lies, the 5 years of waiting, Clara, the unborn baby. In this exact moment, none of it mattered. I floated until my skin pruned. When I climbed out, Auntie Leilani was waiting with a towel. Don't soak too long, sweetheart. The cold just makes the heartache settle deeper. She handed me the towel. Come with me. Want to show you something? I followed her to the backyard. She had a small orchard. She plucked a ripe mango, washed it at an outdoor sink, sliced it open, and handed me a piece. Eat. Grew it myself, sweet as candy. One bite, and the rich, sugary juice exploded in my mouth. It was incredible. I run this place alone, Auntie Leilani said calmly, picking another mango. My husband passed 2 years ago. Heart attack. At first, it felt like the sky was falling, but the living have to keep living, right? Look at these fruit trees. Even when no one's tending them, they don't stop growing. People gotta be like that. Grow your own roots. Bloom with your own strength. I ate in silence. Something hard inside my chest began to melt. Sleep well tonight. She smiled mysteriously. Tomorrow, I'm taking you somewhere special. Where? Secret. Now go eat. I made kalua pork. At dinner, I met the other guests. A young couple, a solo wildlife photographer named Brian, and a young mother named Sarah with her toddler. We sat around a massive wooden table, sharing food and stories. Brian showed us photos of lightning over the Pacific. Sarah talked about the chaos of flying with a kid. No one asked about my past. No one pried into why I was alone. At this table, we were just strangers bound by a shared meal. I felt a comfort I hadn't felt in years. Back in my room, I opened my laptop and logged into my decoy email account. As expected, dozens of unread emails flooded the inbox, all from Ben. Since last night until now, he had been emailing me roughly once an hour. 11 p.m. Chloe, what is this text from a lawyer? You want a divorce? Why? We need to talk. Please. 2 a.m. Pick up your phone. Please, we can talk this out. Whatever the problem is, we can fix it. 6 a.m. Where are you? Let me come to you. Don't do this to me, Chloe. I love you. 8 a.m. I was wrong. Give me a chance to explain. 11:30 a.m. Most recent. Chloe, I went to your office. They said you're on emergency leave. Where are you? I am losing my mind with worry. Just tell me you're safe. The emails reeked of panic and desperation. The old me would have caved immediately. The new me felt like I was watching a theatrical performance. I didn't reply. I didn't read the rest. I logged out. While showering, I looked at myself in the mirror. 35 years old. Fine lines around my eyes, skin a bit dull from corporate burnout, but my eyes were sharp and clear. During these 6 years, I hadn't withered away in loneliness. I had built a career, learned to fix my own sink, manage my own life. Ben probably thought I was still that fragile 20-something girl dependent on him, the wife who would always wait and forgive. He was so incredibly wrong. As I put on my pajamas, my burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered. Hello? Chloe? Is that you? It's Ben. His voice crackled through the speaker, hoarse and frantic. Oh my God, I finally reached you. I begged Mia for this number. I literally begged her. I gripped the phone, saying nothing. Chloe, please speak to me. I know you're angry. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. But let's just sit down and talk. Where are you? Tell me. I'll fly there right now. No need. I finally spoke. My voice was so steady it shocked me. My lawyer will handle all communications. No, please don't do this. I love you. I really, really love you. During those 5 years, I had a reason, Chloe. Let me explain. A reason? My voice began to shake not from sadness but raw fury. What reason justifies faking a deployment to Alaska for 5 years? What reason justifies living with another woman, buying a multi-million-dollar condo, and getting her pregnant? Dead silence on the other end of the line. How? How do you know all that? His voice was barely a whisper. That doesn't matter. What matters, Ben, is that our marriage ended the second you chose to con me. Now, we're just handling the legal paperwork. No, it's not over. Chloe, listen to me. He sounded hysterical. I came back because I was sick. A really serious illness. I didn't want to be a burden to you. Stop. I cut him off. Every word out of your mouth makes me sick to my stomach. Chloe, please, just one more chance. You had your chance every single day for the last 5 years. I spoke with glacial coldness. Every day you had a choice to tell the truth, and you chose the lie. Ben, I don't hate you, but I will never, ever forgive you. Keep the money, the house, whatever you want. I don't care. Please, just come back. We can start over. All I want is my freedom. Freedom from you. Without waiting for his response, I hung up and blocked the number. The room plunged back into the quiet sound of the crashing waves outside. I walked to the lanai. Under the moonlight, the ocean looked like shattered silver. From a distance, I could hear music and laughter from a beach bonfire. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. A massive weight lifted off my chest. Was Ben devastated? Probably. Did he feel like a fool? Likely. But none of that was my problem anymore. Despite hanging up on Ben, sleep eluded me. The moonlight flooded the room. The distant laughter contrasted sharply with my silence. I stepped back out onto the lanai. The humid night air, smelling of salt and wet earth, brushed my face. Ben's frantic voice echoed in my head. That desperate pleading, I had never heard him sound like that. For 10 years, he was always the calm, confident one. The sudden role reversal felt wrong. No, not wrong. Suspicious. I knew Ben too well. He wasn't the type to just admit defeat and beg. That performance was a stalling tactic. He was planning something. At 2 a.m., I booted up the laptop and checked my secure email. Rick, the PI, had sent an update 2 hours ago. Chloe. Urgent developments. Yesterday afternoon, Ben visited a law firm, not a reputable one, a shady boutique firm in Queens known for aggressive asset disputes. He left looking tense. Clara Anderson visited a private OB/GYN clinic this morning. She was there for 3 hours, didn't return to work, and went straight home to Tribeca. After Ben returned from the lawyers, Clara's parents arrived at the condo. They stayed for 2 hours and left looking furious. Clara didn't walk them out. Tonight, Ben went to his cousin Brad's house again and hasn't left. I'm maintaining surveillance. Analysis. Ben is gearing up for a vicious legal fight. Clara's family is getting involved. Expect aggressive countermeasures. I digested the intel. Ben wasn't rolling over. He was lawyering up, preparing a preemptive strike. Clara's parents being involved explained the $250,000 down payment. If her parents knew Ben was married, they were complicit. If they didn't, how the hell did Ben explain his background to them? And why was Clara at the clinic for 3 hours? A routine checkup doesn't take that long. I shook my head. I didn't want to drag Clara and her unborn baby into this war. But if her parents funded this lie, the game changed. A distant rumble of thunder rolled across the Pacific. A tropical storm was rolling in. I went back inside and typed a quick reply to Rick. Keep eyes on him, Rick. Especially any asset movements. I'll wire additional funds. Also, run a deep background check on Clara's parents. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the Maui sky a brilliant, washed-out blue. Auntie Leilani was busy in the kitchen, the smell of pancakes and bacon filling the air. Morning, sweetheart. She handed me a glass of fresh POG juice. Ready for our trip? Yes, Auntie. Where are we going? Eat first. Then we drive. She winked. After breakfast, we piled into her beat-up Ford pickup truck and drove along the winding Hana Highway. About 40 minutes later, we pulled into a tiny, secluded fishing village on the rugged coastline. Just a few weathered houses and small fishing boats bobbing in the harbor. 0 tourists. Grew up here, she said, parking the truck. Used to run around these docks as a kid. Come on. She led me past the docks to a black sand beach battered by massive, violent waves crashing against jagged lava rocks. When I'm sad, I come here. She sat on a large, smooth rock and patted the spot next to her. Scream at the ocean. The waves will pull the grief right out of you. I sat beside her, facing the sheer, terrifying power of the Pacific. My problems felt microscopic. Auntie, when your husband died, were you angry? I don't know why, I asked. She thought for a moment. At first? Yeah. Angry he didn't take care of his heart. Angry he left me to run the business alone. But eventually, you realize being angry doesn't bring him back. It just rots you from the inside. Life and death, that's up to the big guy upstairs. She pointed at the lava rocks taking a brutal beating from the surf. Look at those rocks. Smashed by 1,000,000 waves a day, but they don't move. People gotta be like that. We sat in silence for a long time. You got a heavy heart, girl, she said suddenly. I don't know your story, but take my advice. Don't waste your tears on someone who doesn't deserve them. Save your love for someone who respects it. My eyes stung. Thank you, Auntie. All right, enough moping. Let's go eat the freshest ahi tuna you'll ever have. My brother just caught it this morning. Back in the village, her brother was preparing poke in his front yard. It was incredibly simple, but tasted divine. Midway through the meal, Auntie Leilani's cell phone rang. Her expression hardened. She hung up and looked at me hesitantly. Sweetheart, my neighbor back at the guest house just called. A man showed up looking for you. Said he's your husband, Ben. He found me. This fast. My stomach dropped. What did he look like? Tall, thin, wearing glasses, expensive clothes. Drove up in a rented Mercedes. There was no mistaking it. Ben had tracked me all the way to Hawaii. He showed my neighbor a picture of your wedding. Asked where you were. My neighbor's a smart guy. Told him he didn't know. Auntie Leilani looked at me with deep concern. You in danger, girl? You need me to call the cops? No, Auntie. Thank you. I can handle it. I tried to steady my breathing. Could you do me a favor? If he comes back, tell him I checked out and you don't know where I went. Easy. But where are you gonna go now? I need to find a new hotel. I don't want to bring trouble to your place. Nonsense. She waved her hand dismissively. You stay right here with my brother. He's got a spare room. It's quiet, and everybody in this village looks out for each other. A stranger drives down this road. We know before he even parks. Her brother, a quiet, burly fisherman, nodded. You stay, miss. No charge. Nice to have company. I couldn't impose. Hush. After we eat, I'll drive back, grab your bags, and sneak 'em out. We gotta be smart. He might be watching the guest house. After lunch, we drove back cautiously. Auntie Leilani made me duck down in the truck while she scouted the property. She came running back, looking tense. He's sitting at the coffee shack across the street, watching the driveway. We go in through the back access road. We sneaked through the dense foliage behind the property. She made me wait in the laundry room while she ran upstairs to pack my things. Every second felt like an hour. I was terrified Ben would bust through the door. The fact that he tracked my flight meant he hired someone very expensive. Got it. Let's go. She rushed down with my suitcase. We threw it in the truck and sped off through the back dirt road. Only when we were miles away did I finally exhale. Thank you so much, Auntie. Don't mention it. Get some rest at my brother's place. Don't think about anything. That evening in the fishing village was incredibly slow and peaceful. The house was simple but clean, facing the ocean. I texted Mia the code 307, safe. Moved locations. Mia replied immediately. Careful. Rick says Ben hired a high-end corporate fixer, PI. He tracked your flight manifest. You need to change your ID and phone. Ben was going nuclear. I emailed Bob Sterling, explained the situation, and told him to expedite the asset freezes. If Ben was on the offensive, I couldn't stay passive. That night, Auntie Leilani brought me toiletries and an old prepaid flip phone. Safer this way. My brother's taking the boat out tomorrow. You want to go? Nobody can find you in the middle of the Pacific. I'd love that. The next morning, I was on a small fishing boat pitching over the deep blue swells. Strangely, I felt utterly at ease. Miles from land, there was only sky and water. Hold on tight! Pulling the nets! The brother yelled. Silver fish thrashed in the nets as they broke the surface. Just then, my old burner phone, which I had turned on briefly to check emails, rang. An unknown New York number. Hesitantly, I answered. Chloe Davis? A smooth, arrogant male voice. Who is this? I'm Oscar Thorne, legal counsel for Benjamin Wright. I'm contacting you to discuss terms of dissolution. I gripped the railing. Speak. My client is willing to concede a larger portion of the liquid assets, on one condition. You withdraw your at-fault divorce petition and sign a strict, non-disclosure agreement regarding his personal life, specifically barring you from contacting Clara Anderson or anyone at Miller Construction. I almost laughed out loud. Even now, Ben was trying to control the narrative, terrified for his reputation and his mistress. And if I refuse, then my client will be forced to litigate aggressively. We will argue marital abandonment on your part, claiming you neglected your duties as a spouse, which will severely impact your asset division. Think carefully, Mrs. Davis. A public trial is exhausting, especially for a woman's reputation. Mr. Thorne, let me give you some advice. I cut him off. Tell Ben, I'll see him in court. I'll submit every piece of evidence I have. The fake Alaska logs, his cohabitation with Clara, even the pregnancy. Let's see whose reputation burns to the ground faster. Silence on the line. And one more thing, I added coldly. Tell him to stop stalking me. If he sends his goons after me or my family again, I'm filing for a restraining order and pressing harassment charges. I am not bluffing. I hung up and powered the phone off completely. The boat rocked gently. The fisherman was humming a Hawaiian tune, oblivious to the war I was waging. Ben had played his card. Intimidation. It failed. What was next? I stared at the endless horizon and made a choice. Running wouldn't solve this. I had to face the fire. Hey, when are we heading back? I shouted over the engine. Soon, miss. Missing dry land? Yeah. It's time to go home. On the boat ride back, I drafted my counterattack in a notebook. Asset freeze. Bob needs to lock down the bank accounts and trace the offshore Cayman money. Forensics. Get a cyber expert to certify the fake GPS data and green screen metadata. Witness. Greg Peterson is the smoking gun. Mental fortitude. Do not let Ben manipulate me with tears or threats. When we docked, Auntie Leilani was waiting, looking relieved. Thank God you're back. A man and a woman came looking for you again. Said they were Ben's cousin and his wife, Brad. They were moving fast. What did you tell them? Said you were out at sea. The woman kept trying to peek in my windows, so I chased him off. Auntie Leilani lowered her voice. They got bad intentions, girl. You need to move again. No, Auntie. I shook my head. I'm flying back to New York today. New York? You sure? I have to face this. I smiled, handing her a thick envelope of cash for everything she'd done. That afternoon, I booked the first flight out of Kahului. Waiting at the gate, I powered on the phone. Dozens of missed calls from Ben and his lawyer. The latest text was an hour ago. Chloe, I know you're avoiding me. Let's talk like adults. I'll agree to whatever you want. Please come back. Agree to whatever I want? I didn't believe a word of it. As the plane took off, I watched the Hawaiian coastline fade. This brief escape gave me the armor I needed. It was time for war. I landed at JFK late that night. The second my phone connected to the network, a frantic text from Mia popped up. Where are you? Ben is insane. He showed up at your parents' house upstate. My blood ran cold. My parents lived in a quiet town in the Hudson Valley. My dad had a bad heart condition. How dare Ben go near them? I immediately called Mia. Mia, what happened? At 4 p.m., Ben and his cousin Brad showed up at your parents' house, told them you were having a mental breakdown from work stress, and ran away from home. Mia sounded breathless. Your mom called me, so I drove up there like a maniac. Ben was putting on an Oscar-winning performance. Fake crying, saying he was terrified for your safety. Are my parents okay? They're fine. Your dad's blood pressure spiked, but I had his meds. I ripped into Ben right in front of them. Told them he'd been faking Alaska for 5 years. His face dropped. He tried to defend himself, but I threw him off the property. Thank you, Mia. Where are my parents now? I brought them to my place in Jersey. Come straight here. After hanging up, I texted Ben. If you ever go near my parents again, I will destroy you. He replied instantly. Chloe, you finally answered. I didn't mean any harm. I was just worried. Let's meet and talk. I ignored it, hailed a cab, and sped to Jersey City. I arrived past 10 p.m. My mother opened the door, her eyes red from crying. She pulled me into a desperate hug. Oh, Chloe, my poor girl. My dad was sitting rigidly on the sofa. That son of a bitch. How dare he? Mia handed me a glass of water and recounted the afternoon. After Mia exposed him, Ben had the audacity to say, if she insists on a divorce, I'll take half of everything, including the house you're sitting in. That house belonged to your grandfather, my mom cried. He has no right over my dead body. My dad clenched his fists. He won't get a single dime. Seeing my aging parents suffer because of my blind trust broke my heart. For 5 years, I told them Ben was a hero roughing it in Alaska. I hadn't just conned myself. I had conned the people I loved most. Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry. I knelt in front of them. I will handle this. I promise you. Ben will not get what he wants. We talked until dawn. My parents wanted to hire their own lawyers to help, but I refused. This was my fight. The next morning, I walked into Bob Sterling's office. Chloe, glad you're safe. Bob looked grim. Ben's attorney sent over a settlement offer this morning. I skimmed the document. Ben agreed to a quiet divorce, but demanded 70% of our liquid assets and ownership of my BMW. In exchange, he wouldn't sue me for marital abandonment. He's dreaming. I tossed the paper on the desk. My thoughts exactly, Bob agreed. But this proves he's panicking. He's terrified of the evidence you have. Also, We traced the $50,000. It was wired to a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands called JM Investments Ltd. The account is linked to him. Where did he get that kind of money? That's the million-dollar question. Bob adjusted his glasses. Looking at his bank history over the last 5 years, aside from his salary, there are multiple large, unexplained cash deposits, totaling nearly $400,000. With a Tribeca mortgage and Clara's lifestyle, his salary doesn't cover this. Could it be corporate embezzlement? If it is, we need to involve the authorities. But be careful, Chloe. If he's committing financial crimes, a cornered man can do desperate things. I went to the bank and printed out 5 years of our joint account history. Scrutinizing it, I found the anomaly. Every month, there was a withdrawal labeled Project Material Advance, ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. Ben told me years ago he had to front cash for Alaskan suppliers, which his company would reimburse. The reimbursements never hit our accounts. I took photos of the logs and sent them to Bob. Then, I made my move. I drove straight to Miller Construction Group in Midtown Manhattan. The corporate lobby was sleek and intimidating. When I told the receptionist I was there to see Benjamin Wright, she smiled politely. "Mr. Wright is in a meeting. Do you have an appointment?" "No." "But I'm his wife," I said loudly and clearly. The receptionist's face fell. Clearly, the whole office thought he was divorced. "Just a moment, ma'am." Minutes later, Ben practically sprinted out of the elevator. He looked pale and disheveled. He grabbed my arm, trying to pull me toward a secluded seating area. "Chloe, what the hell are you doing here?" "Visiting my husband's office." I looked him up and down. "You look well-fed for a guy living in the tundra. Let's go outside." "We can't talk here." "Why not?" I raised my voice. Several employees turned their heads. "I'm your legal wife." "What's wrong with me visiting?" Ben panicked. "Chloe, please. Let's go to a cafe." "To talk about what?" "The 5 years you scammed me? Your Tribeca condo with Clara? Or the baby she's pregnant with?" Ben's face went from panic to sheer shock. How? How do you know all that?" "I'll give you 2 choices, Ben." I stepped closer, my voice lethal. 1. We split the assets fairly, and you sign the divorce papers without a fight. 2. We go to trial, and I dump every piece of evidence on the judge's desk, and I CC your CEO and HR department. Are you blackmailing me? I'm giving you options. I stared dead into his eyes. The naive Chloe who waited by the phone is dead. Over these 5 years, I learned that good people need to grow teeth. Ben looked at me like I was an alien. "You've changed. You made me this way." I turned to leave. "Wait!" He grabbed my arm again. "If I agree to your terms, will you keep Clara out of this? She's innocent. Even now, he was protecting her." I ripped my arm away. "Innocent? She lived with a married man. You're pathetic, Ben." I walked out through the revolving doors. The New York sun was blinding. I took a deep breath, feeling a surge of pure, unadulterated power. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara Anderson. I don't know how she got my number. "Chloe, can we meet?" "Please." Regarding Ben. I stared at it, then replied with a time and place. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Cafe near City Hall." It was time to meet the innocent Clara. I arrived at the cafe 30 minutes early, taking a corner booth near the window. I ordered an Americano and watched the Manhattan foot traffic. I wondered what Clara's side of the story was. Did she know? If she knew, she was ruthless. If she didn't, how would she react to the truth? At exactly 3 p.m., a young woman in a cream trench coat walked in. She looked nervous. When I raised my hand, she hesitated, then walked over. Clara looked younger in person, maybe 25. Her face was fresh, and her pregnancy was just starting to show. She sat down, her hand instinctively protecting her stomach. "Chloe," her voice was timid, direct to the point. "What do you want?" I maintained a neutral tone. Clara took a deep breath. First, I want to apologize. I only found out last week that Ben was still married. He told me he got divorced years ago. I raised an eyebrow. How long have you been together? 3 years. She looked down. We met on a site build. He said his ex-wife moved to Europe after the divorce. If that's the case, you must know your father paid half the down payment on the Tribeca condo. Clara flinched, her face draining of color. How do you know that? I hired a private investigator, I said firmly. $250,000. Correct? She nodded slowly. When we bought the place, Ben said he was a little short. My dad loved Ben, so he gave it to us as an early wedding gift. Did you know that for the last 5 years, he told me he was stationed in Alaska? He told me he traveled constantly for out-of-state projects. Clara's voice cracked. But I swear, I had no idea he was lying to you. Clara, how far along are you? 5 months. She rubbed her belly. Congratulations, I said, devoid of sarcasm. Just a fact. But you know, legally, if our marriage ends because of his extreme fraud, his assets will be decimated in the divorce. That includes the condo. It's going to affect your life and your child's life. Clara looked terrified. I don't care about the money. I just want my baby. But Ben cares. I cut her off. His job, his condo, everything is built on a massive lie. When this blows up, how much of it do you think he can keep? Why are you telling me this? Clara's eyes welled with tears. Because you're a victim too. My voice softened slightly. He conned me for 5 years, and he conned you for 3. The difference is, I know the truth, and you're still lying to yourself. Am I? I looked her dead in the eye. A mid-30s successful project manager. Claims he's divorced but has no legal paperwork, travels constantly, locks his phone and takes it into the bathroom. Did none of that raise a red flag? Clara avoided my gaze, gripping her purse. He hated when I visited his office. Said it looked unprofessional. He never introduced me to his friends. Said he was an introvert. He always kept his phone locked. She broke down, sobbing. So what's your plan? I don't know. She wiped her eyes. I love him, and I'm having his baby. Love isn't enough to survive on. Especially love built on a scam. I pulled a thick folder from my bag and slid it across the table. This is a log of Ben's fake communications with me over 5 years. Cross-reference the dates. He was probably sitting right next to you while he texted me. Clara took the folder with trembling hands. As she read, her face hardened. Finally, she covered her mouth, stifling a wail. I can give you more proof if you need it, I said. But my advice? Make an exit strategy for you and your baby. Ben is not a man you can rely on. Why? Why are you helping me? She asked, crying. I did hate you, but hate doesn't solve anything. The baby didn't ask for this. Clara sat in silence for a long time. The jazz music in the cafe suddenly felt very loud. I'm leaving him, she finally whispered. But I need time to get my finances in order. And a place to live. Smart choice. I nodded. If you need a lawyer, I can recommend a shark. No need. Thank you. Clara stood up. Chloe, I am so sorry for the pain I caused. And thank you for giving me the truth. It hurts, but it's better than living a lie. Take care of yourself, I said. I watched her walk out. Her posture fragile but resolute. My phone buzzed. Bob Sterling. The petition is filed. Ben will be served in 3 days. Also, let's meet. Found something massive. I paid the bill and stepped outside. Waiting on the corner was Ben. He looked furious. What did you tell Clara? He hissed, grabbing my arm. The truth? I yanked my arm away. Is that a problem? You ruined everything, Ben Whisper shouted. She's packing her bags. She said she's going to her parents. Are you happy now? If she left, that's on you. I stared at him. You always blame everyone else, never yourself. You think I've had it easy? I've lived in constant terror for 5 years that you'd find out. Then why didn't you just tell the truth? I yelled, not caring who heard. When you came back 5 years ago, why didn't you face me? Ben opened his mouth, but nothing came out. It was Clara, wasn't it? I answered for him. You got her pregnant back then? Or you just liked her better? So you threw away a 10-year relationship like garbage? No, that's not it. He looked panicked. When I came back to NY, Clara was already pregnant. She was young. Her dad is insane. He threatened to ruin my career if I didn't step up. I was going to tell you, Chloe, but every time we video called, you looked so happy waiting for me. I couldn't do it, so you decided to slowly torture me instead. My plan was to wait until the baby was born, pacify her dad, and then slowly transition back to you. Transition back to me? I let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. So I was supposed to be your backup plan? Your side piece? No! I love you! A mistake you bought a multi-million-dollar condo with. You are a coward, Ben. What do you want me to do? He screamed, drawing stares from pedestrians. If I leave a pregnant girl, I'm a monster. If I leave you, I'm a monster. I was trapped. You trapped yourself. I said coldly. You wanted the shiny new toy, but you didn't want to lose your reliable safety net. You're just greedy. Chloe, please. If I give up the job, the condo, everything, can we just start over? No. A shattered mirror can't be put back together. I looked at him with disgust. See you in court. I turned and walked away. Looking back in the reflection of a storefront window, Ben was standing frozen on the sidewalk like a statue. My phone rang. Unknown number. Chloe? It's Clara. She sounded breathless. I'm leaving, but I need to tell you something. Ben. He's stealing from his company. I saw bank transfers on his iPad to a company called JM Investments in the Caymans. He told me it was project operational funds, but it looked like millions. Thank you, Clara. Stay safe. I immediately called Bob. Bob, Clara just confirmed the Cayman accounts. He's embezzling. That's a federal crime, Chloe. I'm taking this to the DA, but be extremely careful. A cornered animal is deadly. That evening, I drove upstate to see my parents, ensuring they were safe and setting up a security system for their house. I stayed the night. The next morning, Ben texted me. One last time. Meet me at the coffee shop near the NYU campus. 2 p.m. If you don't show, I'm going to do something drastic. Don't force my hand, the NYU coffee shop, where he first asked me out 10 years ago. I debated ignoring him, but I needed to look him in the eye one last time to kill whatever ghost of him still lived in my head. I replied, Fine, last time. I arrived 10 minutes early. The place hadn't changed. The old Italian owner recognized me. Chloe! Long time no see. Where's Ben? He'll be here soon, Sal. I smiled tightly. At exactly 2 p.m., Ben walked in. He was wearing a sharp suit, looking like he was heading to a board meeting. He sat across from me. You look good, he started. Skip the small talk, Ben, he sighed. Chloe, can we be rational adults about this? I've been rational for 5 years. You're the one playing pretend. I know I messed up. But I'll give you whatever you want. The money, the cars. Just don't expose me to the company. I don't want your dirty money. I stared at him. I just want to know why. Why did you string me along for 5 years? He looked out the window at the autumn leaves falling in Washington Square Park. I told you. Clara got pregnant. Her dad threatened me. I was a coward. And the offshore accounts? The embezzlement? Ben's face froze. What are you talking about? JM Investments. The Cayman Islands. You didn't just con me. You conned Miller Construction. You were laundering money. That's legal investment. He stammered. Let's let the FBI decide that. I already forwarded the evidence to the Financial Crimes Unit. Ben's face went from pale to a sickly gray. You You went to the feds? Actions have consequences, Ben. I stood up. Chloe, wait! He grabbed my wrist, his eyes bloodshot. If I go to federal prison, are you going to be happy? No, I said honestly. But I won't lose sleep over it. Adults pay for their choices. I pulled a $20 bill from my purse and threw it on the table. For the coffee. Have a nice life. I walked out, leaving him hyperventilating in the booth. I got in my car, drove 2 blocks away, pulled over, and finally, completely broke down. I sobbed until my ribs ached. Not for him, but for the naive girl I used to be, who believed in forever. The next few days were a blur. The NYPD Financial Crimes Unit called me in. Detectives Warren and Davis interviewed me for 3 hours. I handed over all the financial logs. They told me Ben was officially under investigation for corporate embezzlement and fraud. That night, I went to my empty Jersey City apartment to pack the rest of my things. The hallway lights were flickering. As I unlocked my door, I noticed a sliver of light underneath it. I had definitely turned off all the lights. I backed away slowly, reaching for my pepper spray. The door swung open. Ben stood there. In the dim light, he looked like a ghost. Unshaven, gaunt, his eyes hollow. How did you get in? I gripped the pepper spray. I still have my key. He smiled. A broken, empty smile. I won't hurt you, Chloe. Just give me 5 minutes. Get out before I call 911. Call them. It doesn't matter anymore. He stepped aside, leaving the doorway open. Clara left me. Her dad is suing me. The feds raided my office today. I have nothing left. His calm, dead tone terrified me more than anger would have. I'm going to turn myself in tomorrow, he said softly. But I wanted to ask you one favor. When I go to prison, please don't tell my parents the truth. Tell them I got transferred to a long-term project in Dubai. They're old. Their hearts can't take the shame. I stared at him. Even now, he was spinning lies. And if Clara has the baby, please check on him. He's innocent. He shouldn't suffer because his dad is a felon. Why should I care for your child with another woman? I said coldly. You have to face the consequences of your own life, Ben. He looked at me. The last spark of light leaving his eyes. You really have changed. Yes, you did this to me. I know. He walked out into the hallway. Before turning the corner to the stairs, he stopped. I left something on the counter for you. I'm sorry, Chloe. For everything. He disappeared down the stairs. I rushed inside and locked the deadbolt. On the kitchen island was a debit card, the spare keys, and a handwritten note. The pin is your birthday. There's $100,000 in there. Clean money from my savings. It's the last thing I can give you. I'm sorry. My phone rang. It was Mia. Chloe, Ben just called me. He sounded weird. He said, take care of Chloe for me. What is happening? He was just here. He looked terrible. He said he's turning himself in. But as I said it, a horrific thought crossed my mind. The massive life insurance policy he bought last year, Clara rejected the beneficiary status. Bob had told me yesterday that Ben had changed the beneficiary, to me, a depressed, cornered man. A massive life insurance policy. A cryptic goodbye. Mia, call the cops. He's not turning himself in. I sprinted to my car. I knew exactly where he was going, an abandoned fire watchtower by the Hudson River upstate. We used to go there in college when we were stressed. I drove like a maniac up the Palisades Parkway. Dialing Detective Warren. Trace Benjamin Wright's phone. He's heading to the old watchtower near Bear Mountain. He's going to jump. We're sending units now, Miss Davis. Do not approach him alone. I ignored the detective. I pulled up to the dirt road leading to the tower. Police cruisers were already there. Lights flashing. A negotiator with a megaphone was shouting. I pushed past the barricades. I'm his wife. Let me through. Detective Warren grabbed my arm. He's on the outer ledge. It's a 100. Foot drop into the river. It's unstable. He won't listen to you. Let me talk to him. Warren hesitated, then handed me a tactical vest. Stay behind the railing. I climbed the rusting iron stairs of the tower. The wind off the Hudson was freezing and violent. Ben was standing on a crumbling concrete ledge on the outside of the safety rail, looking down at the black, churning water. "Ben!" I screamed over the wind. He slowly turned his head. "Chloe, you shouldn't be here. Come back over the rail. Please. I have nothing left. I ruined your life. I ruined Clara's. I'm going to prison. If I jump, the insurance pays out. You'll be taken care of. I don't want your blood money." I took a step closer. The cops behind me tensed. "Jumping is the ultimate coward's way out. You spent 5 years running from the truth, and now you're running from the consequences." He sobbed, the wind whipping his tears away. "I'm a coward. I know I am. So be brave for once in your miserable life," I yelled, tears streaming down my face. "Face the judge. Serve your time. Pay your debt to society and to your child. If you jump, I will hate you until the day I die." He stared at me. The absolute raw hatred and desperation in my voice seemed to shock him. He looked down at the water, then back at me. Slowly, he reached a hand out toward the railing. He was going to come back, but as he shifted his weight, the rusted iron bracket holding the concrete ledge snapped. The concrete crumbled. Ben's eyes went wide with terror. He lunged for the railing, his fingers brushing the steel. But he missed. "No!" I lunged forward, but a cop tackled me back. Ben fell backward, disappearing into the darkness. Seconds later, a sickening splash echoed from the river below. "Man overboard! Deploy the Marine unit!" Warren screamed into his radio. I collapsed against the railing, hyperventilating. Searchlights from police boats swept the dark Hudson River. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a radio crackled. "We got him. He's alive. Unconscious, but breathing." I fell to my knees, sobbing in relief. 3 months later, I stood on the steps of the New York State Supreme Court building in Lower Manhattan. The crisp winter air felt refreshing. In my hand was the final judgment. The divorce was official. The judge had awarded me the vast majority of our shared assets due to extreme fraud. Bob Sterling walked out, adjusting his coat. "It's done, Chloe. And Ben's criminal trial concluded yesterday. He took a plea deal. 3 years in federal prison for wire fraud, plus restitution. How is he?" "He's in a psychiatric facility right now before transfer." His depression diagnosis mitigated the sentence slightly. "I heard Clara brought the baby to see him before he goes in." "She had the baby?" "A boy, named Aiden. She kept her maiden name." "That's good." I smiled softly. "Are you going to visit him before he's transferred?" Bob asked. I shook my head. "No. Once is enough for goodbyes." I walked away from the courthouse. My phone buzzed. It was Mia. "Divorce finalized? Drinks tonight?" "Drinks tonight." "My treat," I texted back. I had spent the last 3 months traveling the U.S. I went back to Hawaii, hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, and spent a month in a cabin in Montana. I realized that life without Ben wasn't a death sentence. It was a rebirth. A few days later, I finalized my last piece of business. I took the debit card Ben left me with the $100,000, walked into a bank, and set up an irrevocable educational trust fund for Aiden Anderson. "Why are you doing that?" Mia had asked me over drinks. "That's your money." "I don't need his guilt money," I replied, swirling my wine. "But that kid is going to need a college fund. It's my way of closing the book on the last 10 years. I moved out of the Jersey City apartment and bought a beautiful loft in Brooklyn overlooking the East River. It was filled with light, plants, and art I bought during my travels. I started a travel and lifestyle blog about women reclaiming their independence, which caught the eye of a major publishing house. I was currently drafting my first book. One evening, I stood on my balcony, watching the Manhattan skyline glittering across the water. The city lights looked like a million tiny hopes against the dark sky. I raised my glass of wine to the skyline. "Here's to the future," I whispered into the wind. "May I live bravely, freely, and entirely for myself. The winter wind blew past, carrying my past away over the river, leaving only the bright, unbroken skyline ahead.